Journalistic corruption. Mark Halperin gloriously roasts CNN's Brian Stelter over Tapper book coverage. I haven't seen this clip yet. I'm interested to see Mark Halperin's take on it, but how can you not roast CNN for how they flip-flopped? I mean, they were one of the main purveyors of this misinformation. They were the main one of the main media organizations that was caping for Joe Biden and his mental acuity, and then all of a sudden you got Jake Tapper coming out with a book talking about, oh, they fooled us all. No, you guys knew what was going on. And anyone with eyes and ears that was paying attention knew that Biden was losing his mental acuity. So it's ridiculous that they continue to gaslight us. Now they gaslighting us on the gaslight. So we're going to talk more about it. We're going to play the clip. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon, and that's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from Red State. And they report that CNN's Jake Tapper has been heavily promoting the book he co-authored on former President Joe Biden's decline on his employer's network. In turn, his colleagues have taken to asking Democrat political figures on their programs what they knew and when they knew it, which I will admit is pretty shocking. And I'm glad that they're asking them these questions, but they're all pretending like they didn't know. I mean, this is crazy to me. But as we've reported, some guests, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and powerful House Rep Jim Clyburn, both of whom co-chair Biden's doomed re-election campaign, have pretended they were not aware of any issues, saying they weren't around Biden that much to notice that anything was off. Again, you didn't have to be around him to notice it. We've all seen the video clips of him shaking hands with no one. We saw the video clip with him. I can't remember the congresswoman. The congresswoman had died, and he was giving a speech, and he was like, "Where is she? Where is?" I can't remember her name. And she had died in a car accident a few years earlier. He totally forgot about that. Like, I mean, it was obvious to anyone paying attention. Like I said earlier. But as we also documented, another one who refuses to give an honest answer is Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is robotically telling reporters who ask him about Biden's cognitive health that we're just looking forward. And Minority Speaker, what's his name? Jeffers, low rent Obama. What's his name? I can't remember the guy's name, Jeffers or whatever his name is. He's coming out saying the same thing. So that's the talking point now. The Democrats are spewing. We're just looking forward. We're not worried about the past. We're looking forward right now. Well, these are the same people that's still talking about January 6th. They're talking about looking forward when it comes to Biden all of a sudden. They're ridiculous. But Tapper's colleague, Media Hall monitor Brian Stelter, has been one of the most prominent cheerleaders of Tapper's book, despite his own role alongside Tapper in gaslighting readers and viewers for nearly 4 years about Biden, including what they call the quote the cheap fake. Remember when they were calling it all cheap fakes? When we saw videos of him, his incompetence, of videos of Biden ahead of the infamous June 2024 presidential debate. It was Stelter choosing to fangirl over the book rather than acknowledge the media's politically motivated, grotesque dereliction in coverage of concerns about Biden's health that was just too much for independent journalist Mark Halperin to tolerate. In commentary from the most recent podcast, Halperin went off calling Stelter's actions part of a pattern of journalistic corruption in the press. So let's get right to the clip here. Here we go.
And then you've got at CNN, this guy, Brian Stelter, who's their media reporter, who's an ally of Jake Tapper to protect Tapper's image.
Mr. Potato Head, they call him Mr. Potato Head.
To enhance Tapper's image. He's got a media newsletter. He's supposed to cover the media. Guy doesn't write about the biggest failure in the history of American media. Instead, he writes about how great Tapper's book is. And today, in his newsletter, guy's a fan of irony. He writes about how it was so important for Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson to have the truth in their book, the full truth, that they hired the head of the New Yorker's fact-checking department to fact-check their book. Okay?
This is hilarious.
Again, the job of a media reporter, I would think, is not to protect and promote his colleague. And this is no innocent here, Brian Stelter. In addition to promoting and protecting Jake Tapper, Brian Stelter has been over the course of the entire Biden presidency, one of the biggest critics of those on the right and those few people like me in the independent media who have tried to hold Joe Biden accountable.
Right.
He's accused us of being propagandists, of celebrating cheap fakes and deep fakes. I don't understand someone whose job it is to hold the media accountable, to not hold not just his own network, but every news organization in the country who now it's clear participated in a cover-up, some because of threats, some because of a desire to help Joe Biden win. Massive cover-up. And instead of pointing out the flaws in the book, he writes he cites the favorable reviews the book has gotten from news organizations like the Washington Post and the New York Times who participated in the cover-up and whose failure was manifest. He cites the favorable reviews, and then the Twitter account for the book tweets out Brian Stelter's citations. It's nothing short of journalistic corruption.
Absolutely.
And it's missing the moment. The moment now for the Democratic Party is to acknowledge that, of course, we all saw with our own eyes, not in private meetings on C-SPAN.
Right. That was my point. They keep saying, well, I wasn't around him that much. I didn't really see it personally. You don't have to be around him to see what was happening. We had video footage of him stumbling and mumbling and bumbling along over the past 4 years. In fact, before he ran for president, we were talking about his mental acuity. That's what we were calling him hiding Biden. They used the pandemic as an excuse to keep Biden in the basement. We talked about all of this. We knew this before he even became president. So not being around him a whole lot is not a legitimate excuse.
The public manifestations of Joe Biden's decline. We all watched as the media, not the conservative media, but what I call the dominant media, simply pretend it wasn't happening, attack those who pointed it out. And now everybody in the media say, well, we don't need to acknowledge our own failure. We'll just say Joe Biden shouldn't have run and people like Chuck Schumer should have called him out.
Right.
It's a big failure. And it's missing the moment. Okay? It's missing the moment. We'll keep watching it. Book comes out.
Well, they'll continue to miss they lost all credibility behind this, and they refuse to apologize and be truthful about it. So they're done. The mainstream media is over with. No one's watching. No one's paying attention, except for little short clips, and we can bash them about those things. No one's really paying attention. No one is checking. No one is going out their way to turn on their TV to watch CNN. It's no longer on in every single airport. So I mean, they're done. They lost all credibility. Not just CNN, all of these mainstream media entities. But despite being in on the cover-up himself, Tapper has repeatedly and laughably alleged that the media didn't know enough about the issue to do credible reporting on it because the White House and Democrats kept it from them. Are you serious? That's the best he could do? That's the excuse he's coming up with? It's an infuriating claim considering we've been reliably informed for years now that Tapper is one of the most in the know journalists in the Acelia media, and also considering that one didn't need to be a member of the media at all to notice what was going on. That's what I was just alluding to. In any event, as I said before, the author of this, though some of the information from the book has been illuminating, the fact the notorious Democrat media apologists like Jack Taper and Brian Stelter are basking in the spotlight and portraying themselves as heroes while trying to profit off the cover-up they help perpetrate is nauseating. It is. While they may think this book will help them wipe some of the tarnish off of the media's heavily stained image, here's a news flash for them. It won't. That's what I was just alluded to. People are done. People are turned off from the mainstream media. I don't think they can do anything to repair their image. People don't care anymore. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.